So opening the meeting of HSAB on August 1st, we're going to adopt the agenda as written. And I'm going to read the script, which is, this is Mickey Rowland, Chair of HSAB. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, state the affirmative. Angus?
Here.
Lucy?
Here.
And there's no staff and no anticipated speakers. This is a meeting, open meeting of HSAB is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021. For this meeting, HSAB is convened by video conference via Zoom app as posted to the town's website, anything the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and each vote will be by roll call. Okay, so Angus, you have the list and I'm going to ask you to share your screen and start. I got 15 minutes, so I can start in. So, all right, here's Steve Thoreau. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. So Angus, you'll just have to keep track of what we're looking at and when. So Steve Thoreau, we're going to start with yours because I'm about to leave. Can you hear us, Steve? Steve Thoreau, if you can hear us, let me know.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Okay, that's good.
So thank you very much, guys. I appreciate that. So I think we've made some good strides here. We totally changed the design to a more traditional Hobart Avenue style design. We reduced the square footage from about 500 square feet of 375 plus is on the second floor that we pretty much reduced it by. The rest is some first floor, so we're of a much smaller scale. And they noted the changes in red that were made, as you can see on the front elevation. Big change in less gables, less two-story massing. Much is centered. The widow's walk is centered now over the door. So it's more of a traditional Hobart Avenue style there. And as we scroll down, okay, the east elevation proposes, we can't really do anything on the east elevation due to the Concom requirements of no work in this area. So we did, again, the east elevation, simplify it. We took away the second floor tower. We took away the other part that spread out over the trash section there and tried to make it, we relocated the AC units and that changed the massing on the porch. So it's been simplified a little bit there. I think a good amount. If we're looking on the west elevation, we've done the same. We've added some first story elements there as instructed from our previous meetings, your meeting and the HDC meeting, although you were much kinder than the HDCs were. But and so that's, I think if we go to the last elevation, which is the south, you can see that we've pulled the center section back to define the massing on the two gable ends there, which is a huge change from what it was. A lot of change there on that elevation in order to try to make it look much better and more traditional. That's where we are.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. And I can see, I completely agree. Your south elevation, the newer version, is much better than the old one. And the whole building is a couple of feet lower too, isn't it?
Yes, 2.5 feet lower.
Yeah. So, I think there's some positive things to say about what you've done here. And I think, you know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it on the meeting. My comments to this are, there are some improvements from the previous submission, but this house is missing a recognizable main mass. Currently, it is a complex blend of gables with confusing hierarchy. The north forward gable is the most massive, that's this main one here, but a smaller two-story gable projects in front of it. It needs to be simplified and organized into a more traditional form. The multiple balconies and two-story narrow gables add to the confusion. We'd like to see it back again. So, you know, I know you've got a challenging site with lots of restrictions with Concom and setbacks, but I still feel like this house needs to be kind of just simplified. There's so much going on. It's even hard to understand the drawings. So I don't have anything more to say. So Angus or Lucy, do you want to add something?
Angus, go ahead.
Before we, Angus, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you guys saw the photographs from the neighborhood that I submitted in the photo profile, yes?
They're not part of this application. Maybe it's a different link, which I didn't see.
Okay, well, they were part of the first application, I believe,
Oh.
but
Yep.
yeah, this, you know, we photographed like 25 homes that are much larger in scale than this. And the, you know, massing is crazy on some of these homes, and some of the details that are on these homes are just really, I guess you wouldn't be considered by the HTC as appropriate or approvable today.
Mhm.
That's all.
Yeah, the size to me is not that big. It does feel sort of bulky and massive and pulled in different directions, but I think it's more just the organization to me is what concerns me, not so
Okay.
much the volume. Because you're right, there's a lot of big houses, and you know, there's some new ones going in that are pretty large too. Angus?
So, I mean, I agree with the comments. I kind of feel like it lost some character in the newest rendition, and I don't want to, like, you know, be having the drawing be like a yo-yo of going one direction then back the other, but those shingled arches and so forth seem like they were more along the inspiration photos, the older houses. The French, the sliders that are in the east and west elevations, especially in the east elevation, the new one, it just, that doesn't feel right for that to just be floating out there and almost completely taking that shed roof from the first floor. And
Agreed. I agree.
the other deck, I'm trying to understand what that is. Is that subtractive massing? Is it sort of sunken in?
Yes,
The cursor is there.
yes.
So that's another thing that, you know, I think that the upper version, you know, the previous version is a little bit easier to swallow when there's more structure in it, like if it were a shingled rail and a shingled post, to make it feel more solid. And then there was a elevation where there was a main gable and then two smaller that converted to two smaller gables. I guess it's the next elevation shot. Yeah, I almost feel like there was more of the sense of a main mass in this with the higher gable. And it's somewhat, even though there's asymmetry, I feel like that there's a dominance there with the larger one gable. And I kind of find that it's less interesting with the two smaller gables, and it just ends up reading more boxy. Yeah.
Angus, the only reason why we changed styles on this is because the HDC tore that style apart. They shredded it. They had no idea, no understanding of what shingle style truly is. And they just shredded me in front of the meeting. So that's why my client said, you better just make it look like everything else in the neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, it just gets really homogenized and there isn't really I feel like there's a style that you're working with in the previous submission, but this later one that I'm wondering, what is it other than, Nantucket, generic. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Angus. I think I tend to agree too. I'm not gonna say disappointed, but I was sort of looking forward to seeing revisions along the same style, I guess. And now that it's different, it's not quite as interesting. I agree with what you're saying.
So that's a tough one. Steve, I mean,
Yeah, I'm struggling, as you can tell. I'm struggling here, guys.
Yes. Lucy, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'll go along with both of you.
Yeah.
Agree.
All right. Thank you, guys. I won't take up any more of your time. I really appreciate your comments. And I appreciate you bumping me to the front of the line. So thank you very much. And we'll take it from there.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. We'll
All
see
right,
you.
thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. All right. I am now going to stop sharing and probably sign off on the screen, but I'm also on the phone. So I'll be following this phone conversation in my car. So Angus, you got it from here. You can share your screen. Next one. You want to go right to Quince at the top of the list?
I have to I have to do something in the security and privacy thing in order to have this open up to share.
Angus, I'm looking at the view pack on my iPad. So if that
Can you
helps,
share? Lucy, can you share?
I don't know how to do that.
Maybe we don't really need this. There's nobody else on the meeting, so we probably don't need to share. We all know what they look like. Or you guys can look on your screen and I won't be looking at my screen. I'm driving. So you don't need to share, but let's just, Angus, just take it down the list and start with Quince. And then by the time I get organized in the car, you'll be probably the next one. So my feeling about Quince is that if it's visible, it sounds like it probably is. Exterior stairs aren't appropriate in the LHD if it's visible, so it's not appropriate.
It is possibly a little bit visible, and the rear of that building's awfully close to the rear of the building on Hussey Street.
So I went to Hussey as well, and I could definitely see that whole gable where this stairway is proposed, or the deck is proposed, deck and stair. So there isn't any question in my mind about visibility.
Yeah, I'm signing up, but I'm on the phone. Hopefully.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah. Sign and leave.
So will our meeting continue?
Yes.
You're going to be I'm assigning you, Angus, as the big guy.
So, but I'm still not screen sharing.
No, because I'm looking at my iPad.
Okay. So we'll start with for Quince, and I want to pull that up. Okay, so what this is for is rear stair egress. And looks like the trim is natural to weather, cedar. All the colors are to match, gray to match. Decking, epay to weather, and the doors are gray to match. So from Quint Street, this is, I think this is just completely, screened because this is proposed for the back.
Right.
But I did go to Hussey Street and I looked between the third and fourth buildings there on Hussey, and there's a clear view of this back gable where the stair is proposed. So my concern is that there shouldn't be any exposed freestanding deck or stair in the OHD. So that's my primary concern. So if there's a way to incorporate it in the building or some sort of addition to make that work better so that you don't see the stair. Otherwise, I don't think that that's appropriate. Do you have something to add, Lacey?
Well, I went down there and looked, and it certainly is visible. And in fact, you look between those two buildings on Hussey, and that window, which is, they have plans to put a door there, is smack dab in the middle of the view between the buildings. So I totally agree with you.
Well, so we'll just leave it at that it's not appropriate due to visibility.
Yes.
Well, I mean, it really shouldn't be happening, visible or not, but it is visible, so not appropriate. Okay, we'll move on to 42B Union.
Yeah, I went down and looked at this one. First of all, the application doesn't say that it would be natural to weather. The plot plan showing where the fence would be, that they have highlighted actually the edge of the building. And if you look at, scroll down and look at the photographs of where they plan to put the fence, you'll see it's curved, and the plot plan shows the curved area near the driveway. And so they've highlighted the completely incorrect area. And first of all, a high fence like that is, just for everybody's reference, this is right across the street from Diane Coombs' house.
Mhm.
A high fence like that really is inappropriate, especially when they have a very nice low fence, natural to weather, that curves, that exists there now. I mean, the complaint is that the shrubs are dying. I can't be a judge of that, but any fast growing shrub doesn't usually have a long life cycle. And so my recommendation is that this fencing is denied because there's more appropriate fencing existing. It would be too high and give a barricade look. And I don't know how they would handle the fencing going around the curve. And so I suggest that this is denied, and that the homeowner replace the shrubs if they feel that they need more privacy.
I agree. The type 2 fence seems much more appropriate, and if that's not offering the screening that they need, a new planting seems like it's more in line with what's around there.
Yeah, I don't know what the date of this building is because it's not indicated on the application.
Mhm.
But to have 80 feet of a 6-foot high fence there, I think is wrong. And in that neighborhood, what I would guess, the house maybe 18, 20 1810 thereabouts. And so a big barricade fence right up against the street is not in keeping with the neighborhood.
Right. Okay,
I mean, behind, if it was away from the street, that would be one thing. But it's not.
all right, let's move on to 94 Orange. And this one is an addition. And the addition is 10 by 19. And let's quite a narrow house. 3 bay.
Is this the house that we've had previous
I
submission?
believe so. That has a long back addition. Yes.
And
which
they,
could be here in spring.
yeah, and there were a lot of things we had problems with.
Mhm. So do you have the existing south elevation and the revised south elevation?
Yes,
So do you have any comments that you want to share?
I just think it's not in keeping with the house or the style. I mean, it's such an obvious addition, the fenestration, roof lines. It looks like a little building's been tacked onto this building, which,
Mhm.
you know, has been done around here. We all know that, but I just think that
It's not an unfamiliar form, but it's not something that would be behind a house like that. With the gable turning 90 degrees. They just usually keep on telescoping out.
I mean, I would recommend going back to building with Nantucket in mind.
Mhm. Definitely keeping the gable in line with the other, going east to west. And also just the amount of program that's added to that. At some point, you have to think about stepping it down. It looks like at one point there was that back shed addition to the original structure. And then an addition that was stretching it 2 stories. But this really comes out what seems like disproportionately too far.
I mean, I'm looking at the floor plans, Angus. The addition is for a new kitchen. And there are many older homes in town that have the rear L is a kitchen. My own house is one. And it's handled in a much simpler way.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it just needs to get rethought about how they're going to add that. And it certainly makes more sense on 1 story than 2 as you go further back.
Yeah, or a story and a half or something.
Mhm. Okay. Is that everything, Lacey?
Yes.
All right. Go on to 47 Milk Street, the new dwelling, main house.
Should we do an overview looking at the whole shebang before focusing on the individual buildings?
What's, I'm looking at the site plan that has all of the proposed buildings on there. Is there another plan that you think would be more helpful for discussing the whole thing comprehensively?
No, I think that site plan, that's what
Okay, the Bracken engineering plan,
yes.
okay. So it looks like what's up front is the guest house, and then the main house is kind of back in the dog leg of the property, and then the garage is between the guest house and the main house. And then a pool behind, and then a proposed pool house. Wow, that's a lot of program.
It's, lot line to lot line. Pretty much. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's just too much going on this lot, at least in the forward section. I mean, don't we usually try to have the main house closer to, or let's say more visible from the road?
Generally, that's the guideline, is that the main house is the first and primary thing that you see and identify, and then the secondary buildings are beside or behind. There are some localized areas of the island that have driveways and garages that are in front of the house, but to the side of them, it's an unfortunate phenomena that seems to be growing in popularity, but this really is the way the lot dog legs. The guest house would be definitely obstructing the front of this house. It's not really on the side of it. But it's not as though you just have a guest house and then you wind down a driveway and eventually get to a house.
Yeah.
It's you're pretty much faced with three buildings all at once here. So much program on this. So with that in mind, do you want to start at the front, the closest to the street, and work our way back, or
It's your call, Angus, whatever you wish.
since we've got this up, why don't we go, I've got it up, the main house. Why don't we start with that?
Okay.
So I'm looking at the baseline elevation, the site profile. And, I always think about a guest house being substantially smaller than the main house, and it looks like it's just 5 feet lower. At 25 feet, maybe the house is at 30 feet.
The house is at. The elevations, if I'm reading it right, it's like.
29.3 is what it.
Oh,
it
you're talking about,
shows
okay.
for the main house.
I was looking at the topo.
Right. Do you see the that site profile AA below the topo? Where it shows the stretch from the street at the left all the way to the, back with the main house in the middle, and then the pool, and then the pool house
Yeah.
beyond.
Yeah, it goes from like 45 to 44 at the house, and then back to. And then down, the pool is down at, the pool house was down at 40 or 30. There's a big decline there.
There is a big drop off, and I'm trying to discern if the red is the what's modified, how that's, yeah, proposed finish grade. So I guess the red is existing and the black is what's proposed. And the program is going so far back out on the lot that and staying at the same level as the pool, which is just slightly lower than the elevation of the house, which then forces a a fill in from just over 25 feet to 35 feet in the very back with a retaining wall and deck there, it looks like.
Yeah,
I'm not sure where that would be visible, but I always thought that we were building more with the contours of the land rather than filling areas in for plateaus and just extending for program.
but
So-
Angus, look at the plot plan. There is massive retaining wall on both sides of this property. I mean, huge distances of this. I mean,
Yeah, that doesn't really show up in that long that site profile AA. Are there other ones? I haven't gotten down there yet, but are there other ones that cut across the property so you can see these the retaining walls? Yeah, no, that
they
doesn't.
have a proposed retaining wall from almost up to Milk Street, all the way down to past the corner of the proposed house. And then it picks up again, a retaining wall and this is all on the left side, from the proposed pool all the way past the beginning of the pool house.
Mhm.
And on the other side, they have a proposed retaining wall from half the distance of the pool all the way down beyond the pool house. I mean, huge amounts of retaining wall. I mean, it's
It's
not appropriate.
no. I mean, nothing should need that much retaining. It should just be working with the land as it is. I don't understand exactly what it's retaining, because then when you go to the plan below that, the site profile, it doesn't show really the changes of grade, finish, what's proposed compared to what's existing until you get to the very back of the lot. So I don't even know what that retaining, if it's retaining the neighbors or retaining this.
Well,
Can you guys hear me?
Mickey, is
I-
that you?
yeah,
Do you hear me now?
yes.
I'm back in. I just want to let you know, and I'm listening now, and you can hear me.
Okay, we were discussing that massive amount of retaining wall on both sides of the Milk Street property. And the grade
Yeah,
change.
it's an amazing amount. It's a big, long, and tall retaining wall, and it's very confusing to know what it's retaining and even which side it's retaining. So I think it needs a lot more clarification, and probably inappropriate because it's so much change that it's retaining.
We were just having that same discussion, is what is it retaining? We can't tell whether it's retaining the neighbors or retaining this this property.
Yeah, I couldn't really tell myself, so it's very unclear.
I mean, it looks like it's almost terracing.
Yeah, it's confusing. So as far as the house itself, Lacey, do you have any comments?
Let's see. West elevation, I think the fenestration on the second floor needs help. There doesn't seem to be any, let's make sure. There just doesn't seem much style to this house. The shingled wall on the second floor on the south elevation on the right needs help. It just doesn't look like much thought's been put into it.
Are you guys talking about the main house?
No,
We are-
you know what? I have the garage by mistake, I think. No, wait, what's the retractable screen? That's the main house, right? In the
That's
back?
the main house.
Okay, that's what I'm looking at. I think that,
I've got some comments about that when you're ready, but go ahead, Lucy.
well, it looks like the main part of the house is lacking windows, yet in the back wing, you've got these French doors with lights above, and I don't understand the retractable screen. Is that something that comes out of the building, or, I mean, I don't know what that means.
That just means it's not sort of a non-issue. It's just a screen door that you won't really see. It's pulled out when you need it and it disappears when you don't.
So what's behind this?
The French door.
No. If this is to the right of the French doors, is this retractable screen. Angus, do you see it?
I do. It seems like there are two places where they're screen shown, and that is somewhat I mean, it's unusual to call out screens. So it makes me wonder if it's like a video screen or something. But I don't know why that's called out.
But let's remember that we've had this with barn doors and stuff. It's,
right. So
Yeah,
what's the
what's behind
retractable
it?
screen? Yeah.
What's behind the door?
So I've got a list of things that I wanted to say about this house. So is now an appropriate time?
Please go ahead, Mickey.
Okay. So this is the main house, right, with the front porch that goes across the entire front.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so this, we're right on the, if not in, but on the edge of the 08. It's an important area, and this is a kind of a, it's a traditional Quaker style looking house. It's a 3-bay, I believe, and to have the front porch wrap around or wrap across the front of the house, and also continue in the same line across the addition to the right of the main mast is completely inappropriate. The main mast should not have a porch in front of it at all, and the secondary mast should be set far enough back so that the porch eave doesn't project in front of the wall of the main house. So another thing is that this has projecting rake boards. I don't think that's appropriate on this sort of 3-bay Quaker house. The secondary mast is kind of too high or too low. It's probably too high, so there's too much shingled wall above the porch roof. That secondary mast should be lowered down. of what else I remember. Okay, on the back of the house, there's a really peculiar shed dormer with no windows in it, and what that actually is a recessed roof walk inside this shed dormer. It's totally inappropriate. I don't know where you'll see it from, but it just shouldn't be allowed. So that's bizarre. And then on one of the elevations, probably the east, it looks rather under-fenestrated, but I think if you lower the ridge line of that whole mass, it'll probably solve that under-fenestrated issue. That's all I can remember from my notes. Main house.
Well, the subtracting massing, as you mentioned, is definitely not in the, I mean, the guidelines are explicit about no negative massing. I definitely agree with the comments about the front, that addition to the right needs to step further back and drop down. And a style really needs to be established. As you mentioned, Mickey, the rake, the extended rakes aren't really in keeping with a Quaker style if it's going to be a 3-bay. But also the 6/1s are not really that design either. So I mean, if you're going with even the door, like the panels look like they're upside down. The smaller panels would be on the lower part, and the long panels would be on the upper part. And with that transom, it would be more of the Quaker style with 6/6 windows. The dormers on the, that third floor space, the attic space, feel awkwardly spaced and too vertical. It accentuates the narrowness of the main mass for the amount of depth that's there. And I completely agree with the porch that there wouldn't be a porch. There would just be a stoop. And the porch is quite shallow, so it feels more of a tag on than a usable porch. I think it's less than 5 feet in depth.
I think we should ask for this back.
I think that there needs to be like revisiting building with Nantucket in mind and coming back with another proposal. That back part, when you're looking at the back shed dormer, it really is deceptive. I mean, it looks like a shed dormer that just doesn't have any windows in it, but to know that there's a deck there is really awkward. Yeah, I think there's too much to really get into the little details about it. Lucy, is there anything you want to add before we go on to the rest of the
No,
application?
I think that they need to clarify some of this stuff and rework it, and we should see it back.
Okay. So we'll go on to the pool and hardscape. Lucy, did you have any computer issues when Wisconsin Advisory Board met earlier? Seemed like a number of people had issues this morning.
I always have computer issues because I don't know anything about computers.
I think I have more about the internet than computers, I guess.
No, I'm so far Okay,
Good. Okay, so the pool is 16, wait. I see 16 by 24, but then I see 34 by 10. Or 34 by 16. I guess it'll become apparent. So there's a bluestone patio, and then the apron is cobblestone, and driveway is pea stone. You know, there's an aerial photograph after the locust plan that, or the site plan that shows the adjacent buildings to the east towards town, and they're all kind of in the same line, you know, the existing buildings.
yeah, that's where the Jehovah's Witness place is and everything, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, this is a departure from that with all the construction that we're looking at with buildings out in front of the existing, where that existing structure is. Okay, going through the site. And so there's the hardscaping plan. The pea stone driveway, the cobblestone apron. It's showing more rectangles, which seems more like Belgian block, but maybe that's just a graphic thing. It's noted as cobblestone. And that goes just past the garage for a turnout and parking. And then there's the, yeah, it goes up to the guest house. And then there's the pool. Again, it just feels like there's too much programmed that's loaded into this narrow lot.
Yeah, it's, I mean, they're using every square inch that they can. And you look at the retaining walls.
Yeah, there should definitely be some sections through here that go from whatever that would be, you know, across, slicing through that narrow part of the property where the retaining walls are, to see what is being retained. Like the parking, the top of the wall is at 44.5 and the bottom's at 42. So it's a 2.5 foot wall, but is that because the neighbors is higher or lower? And how is that going to get covered? And, you know, then the one that is west of the pool, the retaining wall, it says the top is at 45.5 and the bottom's at 44.1. Well, why do you need a retaining wall when you're retaining a foot? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I don't quite understand what that's about. Now, on the other side, on the eastern side, it goes from the top of the wall at 44.5 to the bottom at 40. So there's 4.5 feet of exposed wall there.
and we don't know what the wall's made out of.
Right, and then it just gets more and more extreme as you go towards the back of the lot, with the top at 35.5 and the bottom at 27. So, now we're going to 8.5 foot exposed wall. That just is extreme. So I think that there needs to be a section sort of in line with the patio, and then one at the pool. Ideally, that would get both walls, east and west. And then maybe another one up at the main house, kind of in line with the front porch to understand what's going on with that wall.
Yeah, I think maybe our
I think we
comments,
can just, at this point, I think we can just say that this plan is confusing, that the retaining walls need much more detail, and I think your cross-section is a good idea, but I don't think we need to dwell too much on this because they're going to have the same questions at the HDC.
and then we want to see it back.
Yes, definitely. Okay, shall we go on to the cabana?
Or the, yeah. Well, she says on the application, severe grade drop south to north.
Right. Yeah, foundation height exposed 5'4" or 5 feet to 4 inches. That seems really, so it's poured concrete, and it looks like there's a stone veneer, or says field stone clad. Okay, trim white, deck natural to weather, sash white, doors white, railings natural to, roof is wood. Yeah, with the lowies and the 6/1s, and it's looking more bungalow. Um,
My thinking on this was that it really didn't relate to the main house at all. It's the proportions, it's kind of short and squat, and it's just not relating to the same style as the main house.
exactly. If the other's trying to be more Victorian or Quaker, this is more bungalow, lower roof pitches, lower elevation, but then this whole retained terrace out on the back. I haven't really seen anywhere before.
No, it's a foreign object, and it's inappropriate. That whole exposed foundation creating a extended room under a porch is inappropriate.
Yeah,
Yeah, it feels like it needs to just
that extension in the back should go.
yeah, but even so, that's such a, it's building out of a rather steep slope. It just doesn't seem like an appropriate building location. Yeah, it doesn't really seem to go with the front buildings. Lucy, is there anything else that you want to add with this one?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Go on to the garage. It looks like a reuse on-site renovation, move building.
Well, the application says new garage. So I wasn't sure.
This one to me just seemed to have a bunch of mismatched of windows and doors, and the style and design of each of them was just needs redoing. You know, I didn't say much about the massing, although I don't know if it had projecting rakes. And certainly all the buildings should have 6/6 windows, not 6/1. So more to do with just the windows and doors.
Yeah, I'm looking at the existing, and they're 6/6s that they're wanting to take out. But I agree, they should stick with the 6/6, especially if they want to end up with that stoop and front door, the side lights. Again, the proportions just seem out of scale. The windows are too small for the massing, and the floor of that of the door, of where the door is in relation to the grade, feels like it's a little high. But the windows all look small for the size of the building. And it is a relatively flat roof with a 7-pitch. You know, that's making me think back to the cabana of you know, more of a bungalow style. And then don't think we want a freestanding deck, which looks like it's proposed. It's interesting. On the existing, they're removing it, but okay, there it's showing up in the east elevation. So just a freestanding deck is inappropriate. Lucy, do you want to add anything?
No, thanks. I was looking at the wrong application before when I made a comment.
Oh, about the new garage?
Yeah,
This is, so I guess this is existing, and it's just getting altered.
what'd you say about the east elevation? Did anybody say anything about the fenestration there? Besides being they should be 6/6s.
The east elevation. With all the mold windows?
Yeah,
Yeah, that doesn't seem right unless they're gonna, you know, really work the bungalow style and go with a fatter mole, that's the double mole,
Yeah,
and kind of push that style. But there's just a mix of styles. The attic window is, or whatever that is in the gable, looks inappropriate. The others are kind of almost too long, and the attic window looks, appears too short. But also it makes you think that it's got to be a cathedral space, because there's, that window would be on the floor.
yeah,
The other windows would be going to the ceiling, if that weren't a cathedral space. So a smaller window in the gable. But I feel like, these are little details in a building that really needs to get rethought. Mickey, do you have any further thoughts about the garage?
No, there's a little bit of confusion because I think there is a garage, which is one-story building, and you might be talking about the building that was the garage and they're converting to the second dwelling and putting it up front on this property. So I'm not sure exactly which one you're referring to, but I completely agree that the windows all need rethinking. The decks are inappropriate. And the massing in many places is off. It's just it needs a lot of help, and it's hard to pick apart the details when the big picture needs work too.
Right. Yeah. I think you've got that right. This is the garage, the garage move on site and renovate. So the old garage becoming the guest house.
So I've reached my appointment and I've got to sign off. Sorry, guys.
Thank you for joining us, Mickey.
bye, Mickey.
Okay.
Good
See you later.
luck.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. Yeah, I think this is, they've just got to choose a style and go with it.
Yeah,
It's
there's too
really
much,
confusing.
too much inconsistencies and vagueness, for the plans for this whole site.
Yeah, seems like there are at least a few different themes that are conflicting. All right, well, let's go on to the garage. Hmm. 22 by 12, 6. And the height is 12.7 consistently. It's new garage. Foundation is gray. Pretty much everything else is white except for the sidewall natural and the wood roof.
What do you think of the idea of having them lower the height of the guest house and then possibly incorporate the garage in that structure?
Especially since it's an existing garage.
Just so that there was, doesn't look like a monopoly board.
Yeah, I think there's just a lot to rethink here with all the buildings on the lot. This is a lot of panels. Trying to
Yeah.
figure out what's going on here with so there are 3 sets of double doors. And so there's storage and then a bicycle storage. but the entrance to the garage is actually on another side. So there are a whole bunch of doors on one side and then the other. So trying to get the orientation right for how this works. So yeah, the garage doors would be facing west, and then all those other doors would be facing north towards the main house and away from the road.
Well, I mean, they could have. I mean, the 3 doors for the beach and bicycle storage together is too much. And if the wart off the garage was designed in such a way that there could be either 1 or at the most 2 doors, I feel that that would be more successful.
You're thinking to move or remove that little gable in the north elevation with where you see the 3 sets of doors?
Yeah, on the north elevation, I don't like the look of the 3 sets of doors like that. I
Mhm.
mean, if on the even if it was if the bicycle storage area was larger, wider, and there was another access on the west side of it, so that when you looked at it from the north, that you would see only 1 set of double doors. And then if you looked at it from the west, you'd see the garage doors, but then recessed back, you'd see a set of doors for beach storage. Know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
Right.
I don't think it's necessary to have 3 doors like that. I mean, it could be designed in such a way that you're not looking at a wall of doors.
Mhm. Yeah, this is a part that's facing away from the street, but that is awkward. And the main garage doors, again, it's like it's pushing for sort of a craftsman look, but the proportions are off. The windows are too small and the panels are too big. The
Yep.
overall doors are too big.
And there's no relationship between those and the doors and the storage areas.
Right. Yeah. And any one of the doors, if they were going to keep those panel doors, again, the smaller panel would be on the bottom. Lucy, is there anything else?
Nope, that's it. As with the rest of the applications for this address, I think we should get them all back.
Yes, I agree. Wow, that was a lot. Okay. Let's move on to 90 Washington Street.
39 Pleasant, I couldn't see that. Oh, let me see, asterisk. I guess that's not happening.
.39 Pleasant. Did we get a link for that?
No, not that I know of.
Well, all right, then let's just go ahead and do the 90 Washington Street. So it's for a fence. I'm seeing highlight though.
But where is the fence?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's an addition that's on the agenda for 90
Oh, okay.
Washington Street. Yeah, the fence was for 39 Pleasant. Okay, so the addition is 116 square feet. There's a skylight, white trim, natural deck, white sash. Hmm. Wow, that's quite the exposed chimney.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We've seen this before, haven't we?
It seemed like we did a while ago.
I'm that sunroom with the large panes of glass. I don't
Mhm.
remember that.
On the other side of the chimney.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's
So
Go ahead.
I think that those big panes of glass are already existing. That isn't in this
Yeah.
part, but it looks like there's a little window and the benches in the back. I don't have an issue of what is being proposed right here, except for the chimney, which just feels really awkward. And I mean, chimneys on eaves are challenging because that already makes them look, in order for them to get as high as they need to, they're unusually tall to get from the eave up. But then for it to be an exposed chimney and start 2 stories down just feels really inappropriate. So that would be my concern is just having the chimney inside.
Yeah, I thought chimneys are supposed to be inside anyway in the historic district. Generally.
Mhm. Okay. Anything else?
Yep, I'm fine.
So there's the fence at 28 India that let's go to that. East boundary. Five, 6 to 6 foot seated weather. So it looks like the fence is just going along that eastern side that goes back to Rose Lane from India Street.
Yeah, and I think it already exists or something like that. I just pulled up the wrong thing.
Is it a 5-and-1?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the 9th picture. Looks like it just needs a little paint. Yeah, that definitely looks like it needs some help. So, um, I I take this to mean that there's just an existing fence that's getting replaced. Are you reading that the same way, Lacey?
I'm just pulled it up now.
It says replace instead of build new.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that that's how I read it too.
I don't have any concerns.
No,
Um, but does that 5-and-1 go all the way to India Street? Because that seems kind of weird. I want to go back to that picture.
I don't know how to do the Google streetscape thing. Maybe I can try.
I think that picture, the 8th picture, the second to last one, is showing the fence getting close, and then it looks like it drops down.
I think it does. One of those fences along there does step down.
So yeah, right now it looks like it's just a railing, but maybe the board fence can lose its the open lattice part and then just be a board fence that is that lower height that goes the rest of the way up to wherever. Looks like there's another fence with balusters or something. I'm not sure, it's hard to tell. But anyway, the fence should drop in its height or just maintain the existing drop in height.
Yeah, I can't tell on the street view. There's too much shrubs to tell if it drops down.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the 6 Sandy Drive we already did, and well, the 28 India,
Fenestration.
yeah, and the patio demo. So before we had an issue with the windows being mold for the basement. So I'm looking at the east elevation, the previous approval and the new proposal. So before, it looks like there were French doors that were coming out on the side there when you're looking at the east elevation on the left side. And now it's a long window.
Yeah,
But that previous approval shows, it looks like 8/8 double hungs, single windows in the foundation. And which really looks correct. So this is a jump to, larger window, and maybe these are egress windows or something, but definitely prefer the earlier approval.
I think the 6/6s are original, or that style in the first floor or in the basement area was original. I can't remember.
Really?
I took, let me see if I happen to have.
Are the as-built photos in here?
Let's see.
It looks like the existing windows are pretty consistently 8/8 in the foundation.
In the existing,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what I,
So I think that it's preferable to stick with that format. My guess is that this larger window is to accommodate egress.
well, they've got that basement door already, the coal scuttle door.
First floor demo. I'm looking for a basement plan to see if that's a bedroom with no other access. They start at the third floor and go,
Yeah, I don't see a basement plan.
no. Well, I think it's preferable to be sticking with the, what's already consistent, the foundation with the 8/8.
Oh, I agree. I mean, this is, what is this house, 1830? Let me check. Yeah, this is 1830. I mean, this is one of the mansions on India Street.
Mm-hmm. So should match the rest of the basement windows. And not have a mold window.
Right.
No mold. I don't have a concern about the single window change.
I don't either. It's a little, adds a little bit of a.
It's quirky.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna have the combination of, 8/8s and 6/6s, I think that's to have a little quirkiness on the back sunrooms. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
then you got that cute little basement door.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've done it, Lacey.
Yes. We got a fearless leader.
All right, so, yeah, I think we've done it. So have we lost Mickey along the way?
Yeah, he's in the chair.
He's in the chair. All right, well, I don't know if without a quorum, we can really formally, do the approval of the comments and motion to adjourn.
Well, we can just do it anyway if they don't want to listen to it.
Well, all right. I think that's it then. Do we agree on the comments, to approve the comments?
Yes. The ones on Milk Street, we definitely want to see all that back.
Yeah. And motion to adjourn,
Yes,
and I'll second, and all in favor?
yes.
Aye. So I think that's the end of our meeting. Thank you, Lacey.
Okay, thanks, Angus.
Alrighty, bye.
You did a good job.
Bye.